Password. P-A-S-S-W. Oh. It's not actually password. That would be silly. Don't make your password password. It's a silly plan. Right, the other thing I need to do... Hey, Zay. Is send a message on Discord real quick. Alright. And now, while that's loading up, I can finally get myself some tea. 24 minutes into this stream and I have not had a single drop. Outrageous. So what I think that these multiplayer games need in the future is a player who actually plays as an admin and can set stuff like that up for other nations. It's basically like having an observer mode. You can set other players and play as other players rather than just observe. And then be able to switch between observer and admin, I guess. Ha! Make your password Rouse app. Interesting. Huzzah! Still blame Calico, who's always at fault if the words AI settings are used. Well, the player who's playing as Phaonix, he's just ill at the moment, but he is actually watching the stream. And he was saying, I definitely set my AI, and his AI was one of the ones that broke. So from that, we know that the AI settings just weren't working. With Calico, who knows? Because Calico definitely has a track record of not setting AI settings. Huzzah! I need to get my notifications and things up. Preview. Notifications. Chat window would be useful. Hi, chat. And who was that? Lord Gracestroke, thank you very much for the resubscription. 2 months now. Awesome. Thank you for that support. And Torshin has come back for 2 months now as well. Thank you very much for your support, Torshin. Huzzah. And Dragon Disciple throwing in the bits. Thank you. One does need to be ready, this is true. I don't think I'm the only one. People are still loading in. This is why I usually try to get players in 15 minutes minimum, half an hour preferably before a game is due to start. Because people do have wildly varying download speeds. And everyone has to download the save game from the host. So we've seen the Russia-Mughal conflict sparking off, and that was definitely a transfer of territories, because they were actually saying in chat before we dragged them in, it's like, we've got to work out a better way of doing this. So I suspect they will see some probably province trading going on between them rather than just a war. And we will also see if France declares war on anyone before Calico shows. Because I'm rather curious about that. So what's going to happen is AI Oman will sit there with proper settings and AI France will still declare war on Austria because of Calico. I'm not saying yes or no, but yes, probably. What are we playing? It says in the title, Dennis. U4. So how many players do we actually have present? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, plus me 23, so we're still waiting for 5 players. 4 players. Oh, we have a Calico. Nope, we have a Calico. That means he's no longer protected. So unfortunately, we're not going to be able to test that theory. And the only other one was Holy Victor playing as Denmark. We do not yet have a Holy Victor. I think it was half an hour he said he'd be late. Maybe it was 45 minutes. Let's just double check that real quick. Yeah, he should be here in about 15. 21 players, 4 to go. Or 5 to go. Human France could still declare 2 just for funsies. This is very true, he could. I guess that's the benefit of having a short name. It becomes massive when you're playing as a country like Russia. Who are we missing? Britain, France, Trier, Austria, Cologne, Denmark, Oman, Bohmanis. Oman, Bohmanis aren't here, neither is Denmark. Congo. There's France. Why is the Martian suddenly playing as Mughals? Naughty, naughty. Martian's just flicking around, so we better not start until he's actually back into Spain. We'll be playing the Magnus Community Player later today. Your Persia is slowly but surely beating down Ming. Well, funny you should say that, because the Mughals, one of their goals is to humble Ming. So if we just go over to the Timurids very quickly, because that's who they started as. There must be 8 or more independent nations in the Chinese primary culture in North China, South China, and Xinan regions combined. So basically, Mughals want to force a Ming explosion. Don't want to conquer it, they just want to force the Ming explosion. And one of the things I think I will do in the future is I might actually start Ming divided. Because I think it would make the East Asia region, or just Asia in general, a lot more interesting to play as, or in, if there isn't a dominant Ming. So we still have a Ming, we still start them off with the Mandate of Heaven, but that's going to have a couple of effects. One is going to make the Mandate of Heaven actually competitive, and people will be fighting over it, and there would also be multiple smaller Chinese warlords basically fighting against each other for the Mandate, and also trying to form Ming. Or form Qing? I don't think it's possible to start the game with no Ming at all. Ming explosion, best explosion. Exactly. I think that's probably a good idea for the next game. Just start Ming divided. What are the players going to do about the Ottomans and the Mughals? Don't know. What are the players going to do about those? Hopefully all the players are actually here. I did not have a chance to check. Alright, so let's go and switch out of you. And then play map mode. Just double check everyone actually made it in. Bohemia's not here. Denmark's not here. Oman's not here. Bahmanis is not here. Congo. Yeah, everyone else is here, I think. Okay, so Bussy starts out at war with Malwa and Bengal, which I believe is a hangover from last time. Congo is currently fighting against Kazembe and Burundi, trying to secure their final territories over here, particularly before Cologne steals them. The Netherlands is at war with Majapahit, Pasai and Pagarayung, which I believe that Ethiopia was after as well. Because isn't one of those a gold province? Yeah, that one. Pasai. Which they are at war with. So this is the Netherlands going after Majapahit down here. Who's this? Ah, we have a Holy Victor. This would be Denmark. So all of the players who said they would be late today are now here. So the only ones missing are those who told me they'd be missing, or those who are actually just absent. Cool. So Denmark, let's go ahead and update those. Update the player lists. Cool. Except now I have to sort out all the windows again. Okay. Even if you release every tag from Ming, there will still be some Ming left, so no, you cannot start without Ming. Yeah, I didn't think you could. Ming is basically one of the Chinese miners. But then they would at least start on an equal footing to the others. And also I think it is actually impossible to have a Ming. It is important to have a Ming, because Ming would start with the mandate, and that's who you would be up against to steal the mandate from them. They do like have a core region. Would be some beautiful border gore, though. It doesn't actually look that bad, because it's basically every area, or every Chinese miner has an area or area and a half which is theirs. It's kind of like a big HRE. Closing on 1600, so soon the Ottoman units won't have the huge pip advantage, so they might be able to get something done after that. Yeah, so the Ottomans are very much a front-loaded nation, and their front-loaded advantages are going to be going down. However, the Ottomans are still Helse and Strat, which still makes them really dangerous. But not as dangerous. $27 players. No, 26. Holy Victor's already counted. Not bad. Not bad at all. Should do a gimmick where players will start as the minor factions have to become majors. See, I'm kind of reluctant to do that, because you can effectively do that with custom nations. But then there is like 100 years where players just won't do anything against other players. Like, you kind of have to start with several major powers, so those major powers can actually start fighting against each other immediately, while the miners start to get territory. I mean, one way around that would be to start everyone in one geographic area, so like everyone has to be in the HRE, for example, would be one way of doing that. But spreading everyone across the world, you would literally have about 100 years of just nothing happening. I've seen it too many times in multiplayer, and it's very, very dull. Everyone in India. We did that previously. I really liked that premise, actually. Everyone starts in India, and if you get wiped out in India, you are then moved to a European colonizer with the explicit mission of get revenge. So we had like players in Britain, we had players in Denmark, France, and their explicit mission was to go after India again while the Thunderdome is still ongoing. That was a fun game. That's where I was Tier Hut. And that's why Tier Hut is now one of the mission objectives for multiple of the Indian subpowers. Okay, we are back in. So, Malwa, Mewat and Bengal. So, Great Britain is still against these guys. Why are the Mughals in this war? Mughals were also beating up Malwa, probably to try and deny England from getting too much territory in India. England was saying that they would have gone after the Bahmanis if they weren't protected this session, so it does look like Bengal's going to be the next one to be beaten down. Which is unfortunate, because I really liked Bengal's goals. I was really hoping we'd get a Bengal player, because they were kind of cool. They're kind of the Netherlands of the East. They have a lot of naval stuff. It's kind of cool. What are my Hogbox rules? That's a bit of a controversial question. So ordinarily, my Hogbox rules is you have to have 2 player rivals if they're available. 2 of your rivals have to be players, and that basically stops you getting too many alliances with people, especially the larger powers or the powers of equal power to you. In this, I said there are no Hogbox rules at all, because I was very much hoping that the goals that every nation has would basically take that place. So, for example, Britain and France have been allied since the start of the game. Both of them have goals against each other, so that alliance could theoretically break down at any point. The problem is, it doesn't look like that's gonna happen anytime soon. So I still really like the idea behind what I've done here in principle, but there are definitely some parts of it that just haven't worked. And if you're wondering what on earth I'm talking about, we have the goals that every player is trying to achieve in that document right there. So go check it out. So every player has 5 goals that they're trying to go after, and also 1 secret goal which only they and I know. Wow, Mughals have a lot of separatists, including one at 90%. Looks like they just pieced out with the Bengals. Now it's just Malwa. I think these two are going to be waiting just as long as they possibly can for the other one to peace out and then take more territory. Thunderdome in Japan. I know other people have done the Japanese Thunderdome. Could be interesting. One that I would like to do is the HRE Thunderdome when we get the HRE update. I do think that would be interesting. Because one thing I was really trying to set up in this was to have the big HRE nations and the small HRE nations. The small HRE nations were trying to keep the HRE small, while the big ones were not, obviously. So I was kind of hoping that the small ones would try and get alliances with France and Britain and those types of, and Austria, because it is actually kind of in Austria's interest to not allow the others to grow too big, but with the HRE being dissolved in the first session, that never really had a chance to happen. So Cologne and Trier started to blob up as well. But I thought it was quite an interesting idea having a couple of HRE players whose interest it was to keep the HRE fractured. Have a strong Austria, allow Austria to be a bit of a hegemon, and then these two just try and survive against the bigger players around them. Difficult. I'm not saying that that wouldn't be difficult. It would be extremely difficult. But an interesting experiment regardless. Alright, so immediately no massive player wars. So I guess player France has not gone after Austria like AI France went after Austria. And it also looks like the war between the Mughals and Russia never materialized this time.